The Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by BASF.
Kelvin Heppner with Real Agriculture. We are at Crops Year 2018, and certainly one of the hot topics here is the pulse market, what's happening with India and their new tariffs on peas and lentils. And joining us now to discuss, Chuck Penner of Leftfield Commodity Research. And Chuck, what's the latest in terms of what we're hearing out of India and this 50% tariff on peas and 30% tariff on lentils?
Well, the latest is that they have no interest in changing that for the time being anyway. But people, I think, are putting too much emphasis on those tariffs because prior to that, prices were already heading lower. We already knew that Indian demand was softer because of their heavy supplies of those crops. So it's a situation where the tariff was really the symptom but not the cause. But the Indian government has a long history of trying to manipulate the market and failing to do it or having unintended consequences. And so, they're going to have that kind of a situation now. The thing I'm watching right now in India is they're planting. They're planting their winter crop, which is peas and lentils and chickpeas. And that's actually, the acreage is up for lentils and chickpeas at least, and peas not quite as much. But I'm starting to watch the weather situation there. In the northern half of the country, it's actually fairly dry. So depending on the temperatures over the next month or two, we could start to see some real yield problems there. And if that's the case, it'll really offset their increased acreage and hopefully cause a bit of a renewed demand for imports again.
If anything, would accelerate a decision in terms of lifting their tariff or the fumigation, the non-tariff barriers?
Yeah, at some point they will reverse those. It's just a matter of when. Because, we tend to think in terms of, we see the situation, you had 2 years of very low crops and we thought, okay, that's a new trend and we're going to capitalize on that. Well, it turned out to be not the case. Now they've had 2 years of good crops and we think, oh no, that's going to be the way it is forever. And no, markets will cycle and they will cycle back again. It's just a matter of figuring out when that'll be. That's the tricky part.
Yeah, and that's the question, I think, why growers were filling the room where you were talking here, because trying to figure out how many pea acres, how many lentil acres to put in this year.
Yeah, and I think farmers generally want to put those crops in. They like putting them in, so they want to have some reason for hope. And yeah, there is hope at some point. I think probably we'll see things come around a little bit faster for peas because you have a strong Chinese demand as well too. So that's been helping take some of that product off of the market. So I think the peas will respond a little bit faster than the lentils. The lentils might take, another year maybe even before they start to come around again. But farmers, again, they want to put those in, and so they're looking for reasons to actually grow them.
Yeah. You've come out with some early acreage estimates, or there are starting to be some numbers being floated around in terms of the reduction we could see in acres?
Yeah, so for both peas and lentils, I'm probably somewhere in that 20 to 25% drop in acres. So that would mean about 1 million acres less of each of those. So that's going to be healthy again for the market at some point. We kind of need those reductions. When it comes to chickpeas, it's a bit of an opposite picture. Right now the prices are still very, very strong historically. We could see doubling acreage for chickpeas, and so that's a warning signal, the other way as opposed to reasons for hope. That's a reason to worry a little.
Okay, that market's too hot right now.
Yeah, exactly. Growers in almost every country of the world that grow chickpeas are trying to put in lots more.
Okay. What about crop that producers still have in the bin, old crop, and marketing that? What do you recommend for an approach there or strategy there?
Well, I'm a little bit worried because we are going to be holding so many stocks of peas and of lentils, especially of reds and yellow peas. We're going to be carrying some fairly heavy supplies of those. Farmers have been patient so far. They really haven't been pushing that stuff onto the market. I think into the spring we'll see more of that. So we'll probably see a little bit of a short-term dip there. My advice for lentils would be, when you see a small, 1 or 2 cent bounce from a particular buyer, is to jump on that with metered sales, letting out some at a time. So to let those kind of things go. Same kind of thing for yellow peas. I think there is maybe some more strength for green peas that's possible going into the summer, into the spring and summer. And if that Indian crop situation turns lower, then we'll see a stronger recovery. But I don't want to bet on that yet. You don't want to bet on a crop failure for, I'll market the crop if that Indian crop fails.
What about alternatives to Indian demand in the market? Is there anything, we have this investment in domestic pea processing, which is significant, and will take some of the peas off the market in a few years' time at least. Is there anything else on the horizon in terms of maybe not being so dependent on India as a pulse industry in the future?
Well, yeah, for China, China is the big player in terms of the pea market. So they've been increasing their purchases probably on the order of 100 to 200,000 tons per year. So that growth is expected to continue, and that's for yellow or for green peas, depending on how that price relationship works. So that's more positive for that. When it comes to other buyers for peas, it's again the yellows that we're most concerned about, and there are some countries that could maybe take some more, but I think that will take more longer-term market development as well too. The domestic processing, yeah, that a year from now we could see that Portage pea processing plant up and running. So then they will start to take some from the 2018-19 crop already from next year's crop, and if all of the plants that are announced or proposed get put out there, we'll probably add another 600,000 to 700,000 tons. So essentially, we'll be doubling our domestic use just through those, four plants that I can think of anyway, 4 or 5 that are proposed. So that's a positive thing, but not an immediate thing. I kind of compare it to the canola situation, where we used to be dependent on exports much more heavily, and now we're kind of balanced 50-50. And it would be great if we could get there, because it also helps you avoid the head-to-head competition with the Russia and Ukraine and Kazakhstans of the world. So it's a positive thing longer term.
And it's consistent demand then.
Right.
It's reliable.
Yeah, they're going to stay in the market. They'll adjust their pricing accordingly, but yeah, they need to keep their plants running.
Cool. Well, thanks for your time, Chuck, and we'll definitely be watching what happens here in the next few months leading up to planting.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kelvin.